Ladies and gentlemen, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. I now call the scheduled meeting of the Board of Adjustments to order. Before we begin, this is the first meeting in January, which means that we elect chairman and co-chair or vice chair during this meeting. So that will be our first order of business today. But before we begin, just want to make a statement. It has been an honor to serve on this board and an honor to be the chairman of this board for the past year and to serve on this board now for several years. I sincerely believe we probably have the best board that we have ever had in the time that I've been a part of this board. I think everybody's very knowledgeable. Everybody is on target with what they are doing, and I appreciate them very much. That being said, I have relocated to Lakeland, which means I can no longer serve on this board after today. So I will be stepping away after this meeting. I'm going to miss being here, to be honest with you. I'm going to miss being able to help the people of our county, and it will be something that at least for the next little while I'll certainly miss being a part of. I've enjoyed doing it, I've enjoyed being a part of it, and I've enjoyed working with those that are here. That being said, we need to elect a new chairman, and so we'll open up for nominations, and I think I can do this. I'm looking over at the attorney. Can I make a nomination? Am I allowed to?
I'll make one. Not as the...
I cannot.
No.
Okay.
I'd like, am I on? Yes, okay. I'd like to nominate Kevin McCann, who is now the assistant chair, I believe.
Actually, he's not the assistant chair.
Okay. Anyway, that's who I would like to nominate, please, as the new chairman for this committee.
We have a nomination for Kevin McCann. Do we have any other nominations? In that case, we have a nomination for Kevin McCann to be the chairman. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Say no. Kevin, sir?
No.
It's now yours, sir, and you need to do nominations for vice chair, sir.
All right, so I'll take, you want me to? Can I make a motion to?
No.
I can't make any motions.
No.
Not as chair.
Next year?
Not as chair.
I
Maybe next
asked that,
year.
I asked and answered that question already.
So for issues that involve my district, I'm just going to have to rely on other people to make motions for those?
There are provisions where you can temporarily pass the gavel to make a motion, and we can discuss that is that going to be an issue today?
Possibly.
I don't think it will be.
Okay, I don't think it will be.
Okay, we can discuss that later, though.
Okay.
If we make a motion that you disagree with and it represents your area, then at that point you could pass the chair to somebody and then you could speak to that.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, at this point, we'll take nominations for a vice chair, if anyone has any nominations.
I do.
Go ahead.
I want to nominate
Microphone, please.
Phil.
Bill Huffman?
Bill Huffman.
Are we, are there any other nominations? Nope.
No.
All right, with that, all in favor of Bill Huffman becoming vice chair, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, William Huffman will be appointed or as the vice chair. The vice chair. Yeah. I'm just going to start by saying I'm flattered. I appreciate this, and bear with me. This will be my first meeting that I'm presiding over, so I will make mistakes.
You're right here.
I was going to say, Kevin, you want my
I gave it
vice chair?
Is that the,
I've
The-
read this before.
It's the same thing.
We'll do it.
you'll read the,
Oh, Strozier number two,
okay,
but the other
thanks.
readers are there.
Okay, we'll start the meeting. Would Mr. Brody from the Planning and Development Office please describe the function and operation of the Board of Adjustment to our applicants and the audience?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial body established by the Board of County Commissioners under Chapter 62, Article 2, Division 4 of the Brevard County Code. The Board of Adjustment is empowered to hear the request for variances to zoning regulation and sign regulation in Chapter 62, Article 6, and Article 9. Pursuant to Florida Rules of Appellate Procedure, any person or persons jointly or severally aggrieved by any decision of the Board of Adjustment may, within 30 days after the date the order is signed, apply to a court of competent jurisdiction for appropriate relief. Mr. Chairman, you have 6 items on your agenda today,
Thank you, Mr. Brody.
and it's pronounced Bodie. There's no R in my name.
Oh, okay, there we go. Thank you, Mr. Brody. I've only heard it for maybe 100 times in the last couple of years. I apologize. Dr. Bass, would you please read the definition of an undue hardship?
Yes. A variance may be granted when it will not be contrary to the public interest and where, owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter will result in unnecessary and undue hardships. The term undue hardship has a specific legal definition in this context and essentially means that without the requested variance, the applicant will have no reasonable use of the subject property under existing development regulations. Personal medical reasons shall not be considered as grounds establishing undue hardship sufficient to qualify an applicant for a variance. Economic reasons may be considered only in instances where the landowner cannot yield a reasonable use and/or reasonable return under the existing land development regulations. The applicant must answer a variance hardship worksheet with 6 questions. The Board of Adjustments will discuss these questions today with each applicant who has requested a variance.
Thank you. At this time, I'll read the procedures of the board. I'd like to address our board members, the applicants, and our audience for a moment. The Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board with members appointed by the Brevard County Board of Commissioners and will utilize Robert rules to conduct our meetings. The chair is asking all board members not to ask questions while the applicants are making their presentations. Once the applicants have completed their presentation, we will begin board questioning with the board member who represents the applicant's district. When concluding, questioning is open to the full board. The chair will recognize each board member. Once all board members have completed their questioning, we will then open it up to the audience who may be here to speak concerning the applicant's application. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak will be given the opportunity to address the board only once. At the conclusion of public comment, the applicant will be given additional time for rebuttal, as well as to present their final comments. Once completed, no further comment will be heard from the applicant or the public. We will not use a timer for this meeting. Instead, we are asking each speaker to be concise in what they have to say. It is important that you stay on subject and avoid information that is not relevant. All persons speaking must provide their name and address for the public record. Those wishing not to verbally state their address may ask the clerk at the podium for an address card. Please fill it out and return to the clerk. Are there any questions from the board members about the chair procedure? Are there any questions from the applicants about the chair procedures? Are there any questions from the audience about the chair procedures? Seeing none, we will move to our first order of business. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes of our previous meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes.
We have a motion to approve the minutes, a second by Mr. Huffman. All in favor to approve the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the minutes are approved. Mr. Bodie, may we please have the first applicant who is requesting a variance?
Yes, application 23V00044, Bradley W. and Aleta K. Sinclair, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 622109C, to permit a variance of 2 feet over the 4-foot maximum height allowed for a fence/wall within the 20-foot front setback. Variance number 2, Section 62-13415A, to permit a variance of 13.7 feet from the required 20-foot front setback for an accessory structure. Variance number 3, Section 62-13415B, to permit an accessory structure to be located forward of the front building line of the principal structure. Number 4, Section 62-13415B, to permit an accessory structure to be located forward of the front building line of the principal structure. And variance number 5, Section 62-13415B, to permit an accessory structure to be located forward of the front building line of the principal structure in an RU-1-9 single-family zoning classification. This is located on tax count number 2611575 in District 4. Also, it needs to be brought to the board that this item needs to be either tabled or conditioned. It was overlooked at the time that after advertising that this parcel has 3 docks per the survey on it. To have 3 docks or slips, that considered a marina. You can either condition it to have one of them removed, or you could condition it to be tabled and have it worked out for the next meeting.
Can we ask the applicant their preference?
Yes, you can call the applicant forward.
Will the applicant please step forward to the podium?
Good afternoon, Chairman McCann, members of the Board of Adjustment. My name is Kim Rezanka. I am with the law firm of Lacey Lyons Rezanka in Rockledge, Florida. I'm here on behalf of the Sinclairs. Mr. Sinclair is sick with a fever, not feeling well. Miss Sinclair, Aleta Sinclair, is here, and she is here in the audience. This was raised with me, this issue. We do not believe it's a dock. We believe it's a pier. It doesn't extend over the water. It's 10 to 15 feet above the water. You can't park a boat to it. The applicant's not agreeable to removing it. I'm not exactly sure why this condition is. I'm not sure if they're saying it's a non-conforming lot, so therefore we can't move forward. I would suggest we could fix this with a binding development plan or an additional variance, but we don't believe that this is a dock. I know that's what the survey says, but surveyors aren't lawyers. They don't make legal interpretations, or they shouldn't. So I don't know how to proceed at this time. If you're going to condition it, that we have to remove a structure, which I can show pictures of this structure so you know what I'm talking about. There's a difference between a dock and a pier.
Whenever we get to our definition, it says docks or piers means a platform extending from a seawall or the shore, which is used to secure or provide access to boats A dock or pier is supported by pilings or pillars and has no sides or roof.
Okay, so, I mean, a condition could be we don't bring boats to it, but let me show you the pictures.
Let me
Well, the chairman.
just, well, he's the chairman. Mr. Chairman, may I?
I would love you to help.
I think because of the ambiguity here, your interpretation and their interpretation, ultimately, we've got to go by what we're told from zoning, okay? I would suggest that we table this to the next meeting and that you then be able to work that out with zoning before you come back before us. That is my suggestion.
Okay, and I will agree to that because I'd rather have a slow maybe than a fast no. So,
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table this to the February 21st, 2024 meeting.
I second that.
We have a motion to table this and a second.
Oh, sorry.
We'll have a discussion at this point.
Just on the survey, it's showing 3 shaded structures, whatever, out into the water. Which of those 3 is the one in question?
it's the one in the middle.
The squarish
And
one.
it doesn't really go over the water, it goes over Coquina. I know that's what the survey says, I know the survey says it's a dock, but it's not. So,
Well, I'm looking at the aerial photo, and now I can see where it's pointed out. It looks like it's, well, the aerial photo is not the property line, so.
but based upon Member Rhodes' suggestion, we will attempt to work this out or find another route around it to come back next month.
Yeah, I think it's just going to make it smoother. Otherwise, we could have issues that arise that
Understood.
would complicate it. It's kind of hard to approve something that's in the air.
All right, understood.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor for tabling this item? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No, we'll table the item to the next meeting.
We'll see you next month.
Thanks. Thank you, Kim and Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, may I, sir?
Yes.
Oh, wait a minute, he has to announce it, my apologies.
I know I can't make a motion, but is there anyone else here who would like to make a motion to appoint Dale Rhodes to be the acting chair for the remainder of this meeting?
Baptism by fire.
I'll assist you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Bodie, may we please have the second applicant that is requesting a variance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Item number 2, variance 23V00046, Jeff Haggard, requests variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1 is Section 62, 1345B, to permit a variance of 1.5 feet from the required 7.5-foot side west setback for an accessory structure in an RU-1-13 single-family residential zoning classification, and this is located at tax account number 2437357. And we would like to have this item also tabled between all the holidays and everything. It was not noted that there is a carport that it looks like it would need a variance to the separation distance that wasn't added for the advertisement when it was advertised. So zoning is asking for this item to be tabled also.
I make a motion that we table item number 2, the Jeff Haggard request for an accessory structure zoning classification, that be tabled to the meeting of February 21st, 2024.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion to table this item to the February 21st, 2024 meeting, and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, this item will be tabled to the next Board of Adjustment meeting. Mr. Bodie, may we please have the next applicant that is requesting a variance?
Yes, item number 3, variance 23V00047, Christopher D. Strozier, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1345A, to permit a variance of 10 feet from the required 75-foot minimum lot width in an RU-1-11 single-family residential zoning classification. The parcel is currently zoned RU-1-9, single-family residential, and this is located at tax account number 2104016 in District 1.
Thank you, Mr. Bodie. Will the applicant please step forward to the podium? Good afternoon. Please state your name and address for the record.
Christopher Strozier, 2940 Hobbs Place, Titusville, Florida.
Would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? Do you swear, don't repeat after me, but just answer the question. Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you are about to give to this Board of Adjustment is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How can we help you?
I need these 10 feet so I can build this house for my family. So I need, back in 1960, I believe they had the zoning was different for the, it was R1, R-1-11, and I think that went up to 75 feet of frontage, and my lot is only 65 feet. So I'm really trying to legitimize it by me asking for the 10 feet, and then I'm gonna rezone it.
Is that everything before we ask you some questions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Your application comes from District 1, which is Ms. Mallard. Would you like to start with some questioning?
Sure. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I drove by the property yesterday and saw your parcel that's currently zoned RU-1-9. And as you stated, you're requesting for the parcel to be rezoned to RU-1-11 for a proposed single-family housing home on the parcel. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I noticed also you will have neighbors on both sides of you
Yes, ma'am.
if you build your home there. I also noticed as I drove around your property yesterday, on that street behind you, there's not a access road. It stops almost up to your property. Did you notice the back of you?
Yes, that's a FPL. They have a service station back there where they've been coming in and out of there for years.
Okay. Okay. Have you spoken to your neighbors that's on both sides of you if you were to build this house?
Yes, I spoke to the neighbors, like they didn't have any problem with it, not from my knowledge.
Okay. Also, in building this single-family home, and since you have both neighbors on the side, you would still have egress on both sides for emergency vehicles to get to you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's all the questions I have for him.
I don't have any questions, just a matter of note. If you look at the map, the property if you're looking at his property to the right, and I'm not sure which direction that is, so it is the exact same size property as the one that he's proposing to build on.
That is correct. In that neighborhood, I saw the single homes on that street. Right now, it's just truly a lot, and I think that would enhance the beautification of that neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from another board member?
Just a comment, this is a common occurrence. We've run into this numerous times over the last few years. Old zoning that gets rezoned and doesn't meet the width.
Thank you. Okay, you can step aside for a quick minute. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this variance? Seeing none, you may return to the microphone. You have any other comments?
No, sir.
So what is the pleasure of the board? Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted by the survey with a date of 10/27/2020.
We have a motion to approve the variance as depicted in the survey. Do we have a
I'll
second?
second.
With Mr. Rhodes, we have a second. Is there any discussion?
None.
All right, I have to go through the 6 points.
They're on your sheet. Turn the page. No. There. Here, turn the page.
Would you like to help me with this?
I'm working on it. Right there, you just passed it.
Kevin, they're also in the packet, so.
That's what I'm telling you. There you go. I can't. It's got to come from you.
Okay. The 6 points for the hardship, for an undue hardship, that special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. We had the similar issues with some other properties in the area that, based on a old zoning and the change of the zoning, would necessitate the variance. That special conditions and circumstances do not result in the actions of the applicant. The applicant purchased this property in this configuration. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter or to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning. Just trying to legitimize the lot to change the zoning to a similar zoning. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classifications under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship of the applicant. To develop the land, the variance is needed. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land. Yes. That granting the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved and otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. Yes, I believe that's true. So with that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, your variance passes. Thank you. I appreciate everyone bearing with me. Again, this is the first time I'm going through this, so it's not an easy task, and even though Mr. Rhodes makes it seem very easy, it's not. With that, may we please have the next applicant requesting a variance?
Yes, item number 4, variance 23V00048, William L. and Maureen F. Baker, request variance, Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code, Section 62-1334-4, to permit a variance of 0.28 acres from the required 2.5 acre minimum lot size in an AU agricultural residential zoning classification. And this is located at tax account number 2001869 in District 1.
Please state your name and address for the record.
William, excuse me, William Baker, 4340 Berkham Road, Mims, Florida.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you are about to give to this Board of Adjustment is the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. You can speak into the microphone and let us know what you're looking for.
We're just looking to get our variance to make our zoning in the AU what it should be. I guess in 1990, an access road was built alongside us to give access to the property behind us, and that took away 0.28 of the acres, which brought us under the 2.5 acre lot size for the AU zoning. And so since we bought the property 2 years ago, we didn't know that. So to build what we'd like to do is at some point build a garage on there. And to do that, we get different sizes based on whether it's AU or whether the property size is lower and stuff like that. So the AU zoning would clear that up and give us the right to build the garage or structure that we'd like based on the size that we'd like.
Thank you. This applicant's from District 1, and we'll
Good afternoon.
start with
Good
Ms.
afternoon.
Mallard.
If I remember correctly, I definitely drove by your area as well. Beautiful place in Mims, Florida.
Thank you.
And your house was sitting next to, it's a stream on the right side of you, correct? After the
Yes.
bushes and down there.
Correct.
Now, I wasn't able to get behind your property or see the back of your property, but it was a beautiful area. Now, what I need, I'm gonna have to ask you a few questions, just to be clear. So what you're trying to do for this variance is build a structure in the back of your home? Is that what you're saying?
It's to the side of the house,
Okay, so is it going to the right of your home by the stream?
to the other side, between our house and the access road that is going to the property behind us.
Okay, and just for my clarification, please bear with me. So when you're saying the access road, we're talking about that, it's the bushes there, then it's that stream, because it's like a ditch kind of area?
No,
with
it's the
stream?
other side.
On the left side?
Yes, there's a
Okay,
house on the other side.
Correct.
Which would be to the west.
okay.
And then that road that's there goes to the property behind us. There's a house behind us.
Okay, and exactly what are you trying to build there?
A garage. I've got,
garage.
a
Okay, that's
Classic
what
car
it
that I
is.
want to have in the.
Classic car?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Okay, so it's to the west side of your home. And if I remember correctly also, and looking at the pictures here in the survey, there's not another home to your left as well, correct? Not right next to you, because you have the land
To the-
surrounding your home,
To the east side, there's nothing. There's a trail
correct?
and the stream. There's cross-country trails to the east side. To the west side, there's the access road, a fence, and then the other house is farther down from there.
Correct. Okay, okay. So that's the clarification I needed, just to see what side of your home you were trying to build on. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
No other questions.
Thank you. Are there any other board members with questions?
Yes, I do.
Dr.
You
Bass?
said that you were going to build a garage and you had some antique cars.
Yes, ma'am.
How many bays in the garage do you plan to have?
It's 2.
So it'll be a double-car garage?
Yes, ma'am.
The same size as a double-car garage,
Yes,
not
ma'am.
extended? Not-
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Just a curiosity question, if I might. The access road, did y'all deed that property to them, or did you just give them a right-of-way through there?
It was done before us, so I think it was deeded to them.
Okay.
Again, I'm not sure
That-
based on,
Okay, thank you.
Would you like me to answer that question?
Yes, sir.
For you, Dale?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it appears that in 1990, they sold off enough for a flag stem of that property. The previous owner did, so that that property in the rear could get access to it. And so
Okay.
then, when they did that, they created this property to be inadequate in size. And it's been through several owners before William here bought it.
Okay. The reason I asked that question is, of course, if it was just given a right-of-way, then you still own that property, and it solves it. But if it was sold off, as Mr. Bodie is telling us, then that's why this issue created,
Yes.
so.
Okay, you can step aside for a sec. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor or in opposition to this variance? Seeing none, you can step back to the podium. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion?
I have just one question. There's this red wavy line, says property line is scaled from. I'll start over. There's a, on the northeast side property, they're showing a red line that says it's scaled from the property appraiser. Have they deducted that from your property to make it less than the, whatever stated 2.22 acres? Is that taken into account there, or is that just for
I don't
notation?
think so. The survey is going by the legal description of the property.
Okay.
The graphics on the property appraisers is kind of skewed a lot of times where
Yeah.
it doesn't match the actual legal description of the property. I'm not sure why the surveyor even put that red line on there with that note.
Okay. Is there a developed road on that flagstem?
It's a paved road. They paved.
There
it
is a
on
paved
back
road
there.
there? I couldn't tell from. Okay. And then on the Florida, the old East Coast rail to trail here on the northeast side, seems to be a buffer between you and the roadway there. Is that where the ditch is that we're
Yes, there's
talking about,
a
drainage ditch?
drainage ditch or whatever they want to call it.
Okay, no, that's all I,
Yes.
Do you have any further comments?
No, sir.
With that, what is the pleasure of the board?
Thank you.
It's in District 1. Ms. Mallard, do you have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the variance as depicted by the survey with the date of 2/15/2022.
We have a motion to approve the variance request. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Dr. Bass. Open up for discussion. With no discussion, I've got to go through those 6 points again. The fun part. For a undue hardship. That special conditions and circumstances exist that are not applicable to other land structures or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. Just wanted some clarification. I know Mr. Rhodes commented on each of these 6 points as the chairperson prior to me. Do I have to do an analysis, a comment, or just go through them?
Just go, you're required to go through them. They need to be read into the record.
Okay.
If you have any comments, you certainly can make them, but it's not required.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Number 2. That special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship on the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. That the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of this chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With that, let's take a vote. All in favor for approving the variance, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, with that, the variance has been approved. Thank you. Well, this is my meeting, not yours anymore.
Just trying to help you.
Mr. Bodie, may we please have the next applicant requesting a variance?
Yes, item number 5, variance application 23V00049, Luz Nogueroles, request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-1334-5C2 to permit a variance of 16 feet from the required 50-foot side north setback for a barn, variance number 2, section 62-1334, 5C2, to permit a variance of 29.5 feet from the required 50-foot side south setback for a barn in an AU agricultural residential zoning classification, and this is located at tax count number 25009830 in District 2.
Will the applicant please step forward to the podium?
Good afternoon, Chairman and the members of the board. Thank
Good
you for
afternoon. Would you please
having
state
us
your
here.
name and address for the record?
Luz Nogueroles, 1455 Martin Road, Rockledge, Florida. Zip code, I can't remember just yet. 32955, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, are you also going to speak?
This is he's my husband.
The husband, are you going to speak?
No, my wife can handle it. I'm here for support.
Thank you. Please raise your hand. Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you are about to give to the Board of Adjustment is the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. Please speak directly into the microphone.
Okay. Well, we're here because there's two structures. There's a barn on the lot and a like a stable, and they were built back in the 80s. There's with the house that's on the lot as well, and it has come to the attention that based on current code, the barn and the stable are out of setbacks. But these barns were built with permits and everything back in the 80s, which probably the code was correct. But now they've changed, and we're trying to legitimize the barn as we want to try to salvage it. It needs repair, and so does the stable. But in order for us to do that, we need to legitimize this barn first and the stable to be able to get permits to repair it and bring it back to life and restore it to its glorious days. So we're here to save the barn. And that's pretty much what it is. It's allowed in the zoning that we're in. And if we don't get this variance, then we technically would have to mutilate the barn by an additional 15 feet when this barn was at some point completely conforming to the land and permitted and everything. So I'm requesting that the board approve our variance to allow the barn to stay as is, and so is the stable, so we can repair it and get our permits for all this. We already have a permit to change the roof on the barn, and today's variance will help us to continue with our process. We just purchased the land, the property in November. Just wanted to make so you guys understood. And I don't know. It's we've talked to our neighbors. They're not opposing us keeping the barn the way it is on both sides. And
Mr. Chairman, has she seen the letter that we received?
That's not, you can ask her. Have you seen a letter of opposition?
no, I have not.
We were presented just today with a letter of opposition. Would you take a moment to review that? Did you not get it?
As long as everybody sees it, we don't have to read it here.
Mhm.
Oh, I think this is in the front part of the stable. I'm not sure how this affects the property next door because there's a lake right there. If we look at, let me see, I don't know if we have the survey. Hold on.
We have a picture of the property.
Okay, so there's right where that structure is, there is a lake, which is unusable land anyway. And I'm not sure what kind of use he's intending to do to his land. But if he's talking about that one portion, I mean, I'm okay with taking out that particular part that's in the circle. My main concern is all the part that's in red is what I really want to salvage. This area, it's indifferent to me. I could, if he wants, I can demolish it. We already have a demolition permit, as there was other items on the lot that were not salvageable, and we wanted to get rid of them to clean out the lot. So, I mean, I'm okay with taking out that piece, if that helps. But where this particular barn is located is right where there's a lake. Mm-hmm. So regardless of whatever our neighbor wants to do with his lot, I don't see how my barn interferes with his lot at all. I'm a little shocked because I had no idea. We actually spoke to them and they said everything was okay, so I'm a little, okay. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to take that measure if that will help alleviate the situation. However, that I don't see how that interrupts the neighbor's property either.
Okay.
I had no idea of this letter at all.
Right, we're not necessarily asking you to do anything. We just wanted to have you read the letter, address it,
Okay.
and know that there is one neighbor in opposition at least.
Okay.
At this point, we'll open up to some questioning. And
Sure.
You're in District 2, which is my district. So I think I'm allowed to ask questions.
Sure.
You are allowed to ask questions.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the barn, the stable has been there for 40 years. And when did you purchase the property?
November
November of 2023.
23, correct.
Okay. So you purchased it with it in this configuration?
Yes, correct.
And you're just trying to legitimize it so you can basically repair?
Yes.
And although the photographs show a barn and stable in disrepair,
Yes.
you're going to improve the property?
Correct.
And that's your intent?
Correct.
Improve the property, improve the barn, improve the
Yes.
stable of something
Yes.
that's already existing?
Yes.
I don't have any more questions. Any other board members with questions?
You've seen the pictures that are attached to the letter.
Yes.
Could you just be more descriptive about your intentions of what you're going to do with this
Oh, sure.
structure?
What we want to is, okay, let me just get the pictures. So most of the structure, I mean, you can see obviously it looks in disarray right here, but the bones of the building are in good condition. So what we want to do is obviously replace the roof, do the walls, and whatever really cannot be salvaged, we will be taking it down, but pretty much bring it back to a property in good condition, that looks proper, that enhances the area, that is not looking in disarray. We just want to bring everything back to life. And that's pretty much, our thought behind this. We've already, we've been asked to clean out the lot. We already did that. We got our roof permits to replace the roof because there is damage on the roof. The lot is getting cleaned out. We're trying to, it looks like there was issues between the neighbors because the previous owner had a lot of things going on. I'm not sure exactly what everything was, but, we just purchased the property and we love it. We love the area. We want to, improve it And that's really what our thoughts are here.
So let me just follow up. So this side structure that is closest to the property and attached to the, what I would call the main barn structure, are you intending to refurbish that and keep that?
I was, but like I said, if this is an issue to continue with the variance, I am willing to let go of that particular piece and take it out if that needs to be. But that was originally there, and it's been there for, like I said, 40 years. It never made anyone uncomfortable. The neighbor's lot is full of trees and bushes, and it's right by the lake, so I'm not sure exactly what his intentions are to do on his land. I don't know how this particular structure bothers him. I had no idea of this. It never mentioned anything to me regarding this particular issue.
Let me follow up with another question. In the letter and looking at the survey, it appears that the setback variance that they're asking for is to the main barn structure, not to the outer edge of that shed structure. Do you have copies of it, Mr. Brody?
Yes, I was just looking at that, and it looks like it's attached to the stable. That should have been included with the variance. It doesn't show up on the survey like you're pointing out, so it needs to be either come back with a variance to that or removed, with the condition to remove that as is advertised with just the stable on the survey.
Right, and so my point is that we're taking it from a true setback of 2 to 3 feet versus the.
Yes, that's correct. It doesn't show that on the survey, so there is definitely a problem with the way the survey doesn't depict that.
But we could approve it with the condition that she removes that section, correct?
Yes.
That's.
And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that I was going to say,
Yes.
that's what you've already said,
I'm
so
okay with that.
that'll be my suggestion too.
Yes. And we already have
That way you don't have to table it and come back and do it
Thank
all
you.
over again, since you already want to take it down anyway.
Thank you.
So one more point.
Yes.
You said that basically that the framing of the barn is intact. It's not rotted, it's good.
No.
Looks like the roof and the side walls are pretty much deteriorated.
Yes.
You're going to completely replace all of those
All of that.
sheathing.
Everything.
Okay, and just retain the structural elements?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You could step aside just for a minute.
Sure. Let me just grab
Is
all
there
my-
anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition to this variance request? Seeing none? Yeah, please come back. Do you have any other comments or any?
No, I just requesting that you approve our variance and make us very happy. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. This variance request originates in my district. Is there someone else on the board who'd like to make a
Yes,
motion?
I will.
Dr. Bass?
I make a motion to approve the variance with the condition to remove the one section that is in question.
Yes, thank you.
We have a motion to approve both variance requests with the condition that the stalls in question are removed.
I'll second that.
We have a second, Mr. Rhodes. Any further discussions? With that, I will read the 6 undue hardship criteria. That special conditions and circumstances exist which are not applicable to other lands, structures, or buildings in the applicable zoning classification. That the special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant. That granting the variance requested will not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the provisions of this chapter to other lands, buildings, or structures in the identical zoning classification. That literal enforcement of the provisions of this chapter would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the identical zoning classification under the provisions of this chapter and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship to the applicant. That the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure, and that the granting of the variance will be in harmony with the general intent and purpose of the chapter, and that such use variance will not be injurious to the area involved or otherwise detrimental to the public welfare. With that, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion to pass the two variances with the condition, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, your variances pass with the condition. Thank you. Mr. Bodie, may we please have the next applicant requesting a variance?
Yes, item number 6, variance number 23V00050, Stacy L. Goforth and Lawrence I. Munro. Request variance of Chapter 62, Article 6, Brevard County Code as follows. Variance number 1, Section 62-2118D2 to permit a variance of 7.3 feet from the required 7.5 foot side east setback for a dock and watercraft. Variance number 2, Section 62-2118D2 to permit a variance of 7.3 feet from the required 7.5 foot side west setback for a dock and watercraft in an RU-1-11 single-family residential zoning classification. And this is located at tax account number 2417446 in District 2.
Please state your names and address for the record.
Stacy Goforth, 305 Ursa Avenue, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953.
Lawrence Munro, 305 Ursa Avenue, Merritt Island, Florida.
Please raise your hand, your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you are about to give to this Board of Adjustment is the truth?
I do.
Yes.
Welcome back. Please present your matter to us.
Well, while I have a few moments, Merry New Year to you all, of course. We thank you for the opportunity to reintroduce ourselves and once again explain why we're here. My name is Larry, a proud resident of Merritt Island since 2004. My wife, Stacy, is from here, born in Rockledge, and she has also been a multiple homeowner since she built her first house in Merritt Island in 1995. I purchased a home in 2004 on a canal lot north of the Barge Canal on the Indian River. 3 of our 4 children were born here. In 2020, we decided it was a good time to downsize. As our older kids were leaving the nest and our larger space was no longer needed, we settled on a plan to buy in Diana Shores on Sykes Creek and found a basic tear down that would provide our needs. It was a smaller home with a boat access to which we could build our forever home. And we both face retirement soon. Fortunately and unfortunately, the timing was bad. In the selling of, although selling the house at the height of the market was good, buying and totally remodeling a 60-year-old house post-COVID and during supply chain issues and appliance shortages, furniture, window, door, concrete, cabinetry shortages, and worker shortages couldn't have been more ill-timed. While my wife, realtor, and contractor stood inside the house envisioning how many walls they could remove without the roof collapsing, I, being nautical by nature, was more focused on the eventual pool and, more importantly, the dock. I had just sold a property that had 159 feet of canal front on the Indian River. I now face the prospect of building a functional dock on just 31 feet. Before we even committed to buying, I measured my old dock and realized I was utilizing the exact same dimensions, 31 feet. It was at that point I knew for certain we could engineer a usable, protective, safe structure within the new confines of the smaller 31-foot triangle as prescribed by county codes. If the setback and variances were approved, we would build a functional, practical dock and lift as is expected for any canal property owner. During and since our rebuilding phase, our friends and neighbors to the west have made their docks and lifts available so we could keep our boating and continue to enjoy our daily boating excursions. Our new neighbors to the east also graciously offered their dock for Stacy to keep her kayak to enjoy her evening paddling with her pooches. Phase 1 is completed after a long year of expensive logistical struggles, resulting in one of the most beautifully remodeled houses on our block, all the time keeping within the surrounding harmony of our new neighborhood. Phase 2, I'm almost done, sorry. Phase 2 involves our dock and pool. We honestly could have never foreseen these complications. We are very deeply distraught that we may have made a huge, very expensive mistake. The harmony that we know exists in our neighborhood is exactly the harmony that our friends in this neighborhood know we desire as well. Therefore, we can only hope that the same considerations that have been granted to others in the past will be approved for us. We will now once again clearly state in our appeal, fulfilling the mandatory 6 points as set forth by the board. So without any further ramblings, I'll let my capable wife eloquently fill in the blanks.
Good afternoon. We're back. Hope you all enjoyed your holidays and started the new year off well. As Mr. Bodie stated, we're here today to obtain variances in order to build a boat dock on our property. We own a small 21-foot Seacraft boat that's 54 years old. It has been in my husband's family for decades and in his care and safekeeping for the last 20 years. Boating is a large part of our life, and it's the reason we bought property on a navigable waterway. We were asked to address these 6 issues before the board. Number 1, the special condition that exists.
Will you put the overhead on?
Let me just state, if I could, are you reading what you've already given us?
No, sir, this is it.
Or is this additional?
This is additional.
Okay.
We're going to be very thorough in this. The special condition for this request is that we live on an irregular shaped lot, which makes the back very narrow. If you look at the survey submitted with the variance request, you can see the pie shape and how it narrows to only 31.2 feet at the seawall. Current setback requirements are 7.5 feet from each property line, leaving 16.2 feet, which will not accommodate our 21-foot boat. Consequently, we designed our dock to go in at a diagonal to stay within the extended intersecting property lines which Brevard County uses to determine allowable dock space. Number 2, these conditions are not the result of any actions of ours. The unusual shape was created by the developer of the neighborhood. We represent the ultimate definition of hardship. Number 3, the granting of this variance will give us the same rights enjoyed by everyone in our neighborhood. When we purchased this property, we did our due diligence and extensive research to make sure we would be able to put in a functional dock with a lift for our 21-foot boat. We talked to realtors, neighbors, surveyors, and other homeowners that lived on irregular shaped lots and corner lots in our neighborhood. We boated through the neighborhood and looked at Google aerial photographs which verified what we've been told. The irregular shaped lots in our neighborhood had boat docks, many with far more restrictions and less canal room. With our lot being on the widest part of the canal, we knew building a dock would not pose any issues to navigating the canal. When boaters navigate a canal, they stay in the center of the channel. As you can see in this photo, they would not even come close to our dock.
We have it.
As you can see in this photo, they would not even come close to our dock. We are tucked into a crook in the corner of the canal, nowhere near the area where boats navigate in our canal. Also, both of our neighbors enter their lifts from the opposite side, so our dock would not affect their access. We request the same rights commonly enjoyed by our neighbors. Our boat is a huge part of our life. My husband and I both grew up boating. Our kids grew up fishing, kneeboarding, and wakeboarding. Anyone who knows boating would understand the care, attention, and dedication to have a 54-year-old boat still in the water and operating. Number 4, the literal interpretation of the provisions of this chapter would deprive us of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning classification and will constitute unnecessary and undue hardship. We paid the premium waterfront price for our home on a navigable canal, so we would be able to dock our boat and have access to the channel. On our canal alone to the mouth of Sykes Creek, there are 49 homes, and 47 of them have docks. The 2 homes without docks are on regular shaped lots and could have them. All of those homes right here, all the way from this end, all the way from one end of our canal, all the way to the mouth of Sykes Creek. All but 2 houses have docks, and the 2 that don't are in regular lots and could. We will be the one exception on that entire canal that will not be able to have a dock if this variance is denied. We have other pictures of the other pie-shaped lots at the end of our canal and on our canal. All 6 of the other irregular shaped lots do have docks on those properties. This variance, number 5, this variance is the only way we can dock our 21-foot boat in the space provided and assure we will have access to utilize a lift. At our last hearing, our neighbors repeatedly told the board we could put in our dock with, quote, no variance at all, end quote. That was incorrect, and Mr. Bodie pointed this out at the hearing. All of the proposed docks in their packet required a variance, and all went in on a parallel. Besides needing a variance to do that, the big problem with going in parallel is this. We're going to show you a picture. First of all, one of the things is when you go out to where the 2 intersecting lines cross, there's only 17.7 feet before you hit those intersecting lines. Our boat's 21 foot. So that's really close with the motor hanging out. We would probably hang out and we wouldn't be able to do that regardless. If we go in at a parallel, the other problem is we wouldn't be able to get our boat in. Mr. Matlock's dock, the Matlocks next door to us have a dock right there. That dock, we would not be able to swing in to go in on that side. So we would have to enter it from the other way, from our neighbors on the other side. We would have to swing in. When we do that, when we swing in, you see how close we have to be to their property to get in? They have every right to put in another lift right next to that other lift. They can utilize their property to the 7.5 mark. There are lots of people in our canal that do that. There are many, many homes in our canal where they have 2 lifts. One that goes in parallel like that, then they put another lift in perpendicular next to it. A lot of people have 2 boats on our canal. There's at least 5 or 6 homes on our canal alone where they do that. Or if our neighbors wanted to put in jet skis or anything else, if they wanted to drop a piling at their 7.5 foot mark right there, they could put in a piling or whatever they wanted without county approval. Then we would own a dock and not be able to have any access at all. And if they sold that property, the new owner could do that as well. Anyone who owns that property has every right to do that. We worked hard on planning this dock to have minor to no effect on anyone around us. It allows us all access to our docks. It is also angled away from the Gannon's property to protect their view. We truly are trying our best to utilize the tiny space we have in the best interest of everyone. We feel this design has minimal impact on our neighbors. Here's a blow up of the neighborhood plat. That's the neighborhood plat. That's what the developer developed. You can see our 2 pieces of property. You can see our little triangle. The Gannon's view, that was one of the big things that they had indicated was concern about their view. Taking into consideration, our dock is going to fit in that little triangle. Go back to the other picture for a sec. Our dock fits in that little triangle right there. It's not going to obstruct their view. It stays in that. So that whole view across the canal, go back. That whole view is unobstructed. What we obstruct, if you take a pen and you put it there, what we're obstructing is going to be a view of Mr. Matlock's dock. I mean, it's a minimal obstruction at most, and it's an obstruction to the Matlock's dock. Our dock is tucked away in our little triangle. There are so many ways. I'm going to go into this because I know that we probably will have opposition, so I'm going to take my time and go through every point. We feel the design has minimal impact on our neighbors. In Florida, the courts have several ways of allotting water rights. The strictest is the extension of property lines, which is what we're dealing with. That's the strictest interpretation. As you can see, even under that, their view is minimally affected. Another way to apportion water rights was developed by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Survey and Mapping. We're going to provide you a copy of that. Do you have those papers? We'll find those. We have that in 3 cases that we're going to give you as well. 3 Florida court cases. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection Bureau of Survey and Mapping. They have found that, quote, the extension of property lines is the most frequent cause of water disputes. Instead, the water body must be equitably apportioned. In a canal such as ours, the main technique to be applied is the, quote, perpendicular to the stream's thread method, end quote. As you can see in these photographs, this method allows us for a more equitable distribution fair to all property owners, which the Florida courts have adopted in their rulings. To have 2 people with upland property with the same size and allow one to have a 49-foot dock and deny another a 26-foot dock is not equitable. The report from the Florida Department of Environmental Protection says, quote, the courts require that the allocation be equitable for the whole neighborhood, end quote. It also says that in recognition of potential conflicts among competing rights, it acknowledged an order of priority has been implied through various court decisions. Specifically, the dominant riparian right is the right of ingress and egress from navigable waters, which takes precedent over the right to a view, end quote. I'm providing copies of 3 Florida court cases which address this issue: Hayes versus Bowman, Mickle versus Norton, and Lee County versus Keisel. Once again, our photos clearly show it's a minimal impact. If you take into account the only thing that we'll be blocking is the other neighbor's dock. The rest is a pretty clear view. We have other people here today that live on our canal, boat our canal, and hopefully they'll support us in saying that as well. Number 6. The proposed variances are in harmony with all surrounding properties and will be one of the smallest docks in the canal. In fact, there are several nearby homes on our canal wherein the homeowners have 2 docks. one with a larger boat that goes in parallel and a second boat that goes in perpendicular. In our first hearing, our neighbor said, quote, "If you look at all these docks in the neighborhood, they all parallel to their property." That's not accurate. Here is a picture of some of the houses that are close to her home, all up and down our canal. There's 2 docks, one that goes in parallel, the second lift goes in perpendicular. And there are a lot that go in diagonal as well. Our dock design is diagonal, and the measurement from the property line into the water is only 21 feet, which is well within the county ordinances and gives us more room than most in the canal. We want to be clear to the board that our dock isn't sticking out. Our proposed dock in no way will cause any congestion or harm to canal traffic. My husband knows boating and navigation better than anyone I know. If this dock would be detrimental or impede the ability for boaters to safely navigate, he would never put it in. Lastly, we would like to set the record straight and address some of the falsehoods in the last hearing. Our neighbor stated.
Ma'am, I don't mean
Okay.
to cut you off.
Okay.
We're not considering
Okay.
stuff from the last meeting.
Okay.
This meeting's new, so, you're going to have a chance to rebut anything that is brought up here.
Okay.
But rebutting stuff from the last meeting isn't necessary.
Okay. I do want to say that in our canal, it is easy for boats to navigate to the end of our canal. It's not the only place. Our spot is not the only place where you can turn around. There are many places in our canal where boats can easily turn around. We have a right to our proposed dock. We work diligently to be in compliance and within all the parameters provided by the Planning and Development Department. We will be denied our right if we are not able to obtain these variances. We have stayed within our little triangle, or should I say cubby hole. That's all we need, a little cubby hole to put our 54-year-old small boat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will open it up to some questions from board members.
No, we're staying.
You can stay up front. This variance request originates within my district, but your presentation was thorough enough that I don't have any questions.
I have none.
I have no questions.
I'm comparing the survey to the aerial photo, and the aerial photo is not a dimensional
No,
tool.
sir.
It's just meant to be a visual. We often get variance requests. It's not part of the package that I see here about exceeding 20% or a certain distance from the seawall.
Correct.
And I need to turn to staff and
Yeah.
get an interpretation here. Has anything been done here to look at the percentage of canal
Yes, we measured
intrusion?
this percentage of the canal, and it doesn't go over the 20%.
Okay.
Whenever we looked at it. It didn't need a variance for projection.
And is that the only one? There's not a minimum or maximum footage? It's all based on the
Yeah,
percentage?
it meets all the square footage.
Okay. No, I meant the projection. There's not a maximum projection footage. It's just based on percent.
There is a maximum if you can only go out 30 feet if you have enough width of the waterway. Other than that, it's 20%, whichever is less.
And ours
So-
goes out 21 feet from our property line, not the seawall, from the property line, it projects out 21 feet. The 26.2 feet, it's on a diagonal, but from the property line out is,
Perpendicular to the property line is,
Is
I
20
see the dimension.
yeah.
Okay. No, I wanted to clarify that
Yeah.
because we run into that often enough. Just from the photograph alone, and I'm not trying to be picky here, but in your statement, it said that your diamond shape is unusual in the neighborhood, but directly across the street are 2 other properties, the exact same configuration with the docks on their canals. And again, I'm looking at this one, it almost looks like the,
I'm not sure, can we see that?
It's in your packet.
You,
Across-
it probably
He's just
wasn't,
looking at the
Yeah.
aerial.
Yeah,
yep. And
Actually,
it almost
goes
looked,
out to us.
it almost looks like the dock trespasses on the neighbor property in
a
the,
lot of the corner lots do that. A
Yeah.
lot of the ones that are in the ends of the canals are like that.
and you've taken pains to stay within your boundaries.
Yes,
So-
we definitely have worked with Mr. Bodie and he's educated us on what we can do, and we've stayed in the parameters that he gave us, checked all the measurements, did everything.
Okay.
We tried.
That's it.
Thank you. You may have a seat in the front row. Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition to this variance? Please step forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Denise Gannon at 285 Diana Boulevard, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953.
Tim Gannon, 285 Diana Boulevard, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953.
Thank you. You raise your right hands. Do you swear and affirm the evidence you're about to give the board is the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Please proceed. First of all, you're in favor or in opposition to the variance request?
I'd like to give you, there's 2 opposition letters in our packet. We'll go over you. We'll have to read here, but at least you'll have a copy. Got one here too. Okay, just you.
You have to give them a copy too.
Yep. Got it. Thank you. We'll put it up on the screen for order.
Well, no, they need a hard copy to look at.
Yep. Here you go.
Madam Attorney,
Did you need one?
are they allowed to present opposition letters at the meeting? Don't they have to come in advance?
Let me look at let me look.
Because it was my understanding, I could be wrong, and you, please look. It was my understanding that any opposition letters had to be submitted prior to the meeting.
Well, we could just put the 2 letters aside for now, and you guys can
Yeah, that's fine.
proceed.
That's
I
fine.
just gotta figure out how to turn this on. Take it on.
It's on.
Thanks.
They'll switch it as needed.
Thanks.
First, want to say thank you for your time today. I started, last time we were here, I was the one that started, and the first thing I said was, as a boat owner, we're not trying to keep them from having a dock. We know, as a boat owner, you want to have your boat behind your house, you want to get it out of the water, and you want to have it covered. And we don't have an objection to that. Last time we were here, they wanted a variance they wanted 100% variance with 2 variances. Now they're going for 97% variance, which is basically about a 2.4-inch difference from when they were last time. Not 100% sure why we're here with such a small variance change. However, I think I might have a pretty good idea. They have said multiple times that this matter doesn't affect us in any way. They have never been on our property, ever. They've never stepped foot on our property to see how this is going to affect us. We've reached out to them numerous times. First time we reached out to them was when we got the initial letter for the variance. Never came over to talk to us about what they were doing. We just got the letter and we're like, wow, what is this? So we go over to talk to them. And one time we were able to try and converse with them on this, and they were their way or no way. Did not want to entertain any other ideas. They bought this house in 2021. They had a 20-foot boat that they came into this house with. As far as I'm concerned, they did not do their due diligence to realize that the boat was not going to fit behind their house without having to ask for a variance. They had surveys showing property lines, they had access to current regulations and codes, and they knew what they had when they purchased it. The property has a hardship, it was built that way, and it was that way when they bought it with the boat that they had.
Let me add to that just for a second. My husband's lived in this neighborhood my husband's lived in this neighborhood, was raised in this neighborhood, knows the neighborhood inside and out. We've owned our home for over 20 years.
They're not asking for a variance to go out and buy a boat to see if it'll fit, if they can get it to fit in their property. They're asking for a variance to fix a problem they created by purchasing a house with a boat that they already owned. And now they're asking the board to make a decision that affects multiple properties in Brevard County, and they're asking the board to fix their problem.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask that they tell us what their opposition is? All this other stuff is fluff that's not necessary.
Really?
That's
You can proceed.
Okay, so
fine, but they
All right.
just went through a lot of fluff too.
I'll tell you what.
It's okay.
We'll
We'll get to the point.
We'll get right to
I
the.
said you can proceed.
Thank you.
Okay.
Here, we'll go to the next chart. Go ahead. We'll go right to your 6 points.
Yep. Okay.
Just to make it clear, I'm not asking you
No, that's all
to
right.
cut out anything.
That's
I
all
want
right.
you to,
That's-
I want your
That's
full.
all right. The meat of this is at the end
Okay.
anyways, okay? We agree to the factors that exist in questions 1 through 4 and number 6 on the variance hardship worksheet for the property at 301 Ursa Avenue. However, we do disagree with question 5 for the variance request.
From our understanding, all of those have to be yes for you to approve this variance when we were reading the rules of granting a variance, so that's why we went here.
The variance of 97% of what code allows is not the minimum variance required for reasonable use of the land. Definition of minimum per Google is the least or smallest amount possible. The definition of reasonable per Google is as much as appropriate or fair. As a boat owner, we feel that reasonable means you get your boat behind your house, you have access to your boat, you get your boat out of the water, you have it covered, you have ingress and egress to navigational waterways. And we have no objection of wanting them to have that. They have come, we never had the opportunity to talk to them about any other options. They've come in here twice now with wanting a dock that takes up all the variances needed, when there are other options. Now, I will agree, we misspoke, had bad information at the last hearing, okay? When we said that they had other options that would not require a variance. They have 2 other options that would require a variance, but would be less than what they're asking for now. One is an elevator lift, which would be about a 57% variance to use an elevator lift. The other one is a 4-pole cradle lift. Oh,
So that's their boat right there behind their house, showing that it would fit parallel with lesser of a variance than the perpendicular option that they've done. So it would be 57% and not 97%. Sorry. It would be 57% and not 97%. When they were here in October, they asked for 100%. Mr. Rhodes, we've heard you say over and over again, you hate giving variances for docks because of the setback being able to get in and out and encroachment on other people's properties, and that's bothered you. We understand that. They've come back with 97%. We have the same thing, the 7.5 and 7.5. If you have a longer boat, we understand that. But this is only 57% of the variance, not 97.
Excuse me, in the variance hardship, you said that you had no problem with any of them except number 5? Is that
Yes.
what you said? All right, so just number 5.
Saying that the minimum, this is, by granting the variance they presented is the minimum.
And-
And here's 2 other options that are actually more minimum
Well,
and reasonable.
but it meets, Mr. Bodie, it meets the requirements for your office.
It doesn't meet the setback requirements. That's what they're in here for, is the 2 setbacks. Meets the square footage and coverage and projection.
these 2 options these two options would still require a variance. It just would not be it would be less than what they're asking for now. It would be the minimal case. An elevator lift is, they brought up the point about, if it was the next lift that we're going to show you is a 4-pole cradle lift, where it would be hard to navigate into and so on and so forth. An elevator lift like this, you don't have to come in from either direction. I've seen guys that own them, they come in, they turn the boat comes right in on the cradle, and they lift it up. So that is a minimal variance that would be required to get their boat behind their house, out of the water, and they could cover it.
There's a canal literally right next to our neighborhood. Every single person on there has an elevator lift. $1 million homes, $1 million boats.
But it still requires a variance.
It's a
It's-
minimum variance.
Right.
It's only 57% compared to 97% that they're asking for. So we're trying to show you there are other solutions. They keep coming in with the same solution. So this is minimum. So we'll keep going. We'll get to the point here now.
So the 4-pole cradle lift was the other option. Again, it's going to require a variance. The property it's obvious that no matter what they do is going to require some kind of variance. It is just, again, a lesser variance than what they're requesting. According to number 5, it's the minimum variance required to function, to use their boat as they wish.
This is their boat parked parallel to their property. This
So-
is our property. Okay.
So throughout this whole process, we have been made out to be the bad people, when in reality, we're not. We're just here trying to fight for what we worked hard for, and we don't feel that somebody should be able to take from us to enhance themselves. We have tried to communicate with the homeowners to solve this problem in a neighborly way. Matter of fact, if they would have communicated with us, this would have been resolved before the first hearing. They would have got their variance at the hearing, and they would have had their dock built by now. But not once would they ever entertain an idea to discuss as neighbors. We're getting to the point. We have shown that there are at least 2 other viable options that are minimum variance that will make reasonable use of the land and would be less intrusive to our property and provide them all they need. Per applicant worksheet question number 5, the variance requested, this is a quote, the variance requested will allow homeowner to dock their 20-foot boat. Okay? Now, a roof is above reasonable when a boat cover does the same. An upper deck is beyond reasonable and not required to dock their boat. A roof does not have eyes, ears, or voices. What I mean by that is they put an upper deck on this, they're going to have people, and I got a little bit more to say about that, but just to clarify what I just said there will be people on that upper deck, party deck, gazebo, whatever you want to call it, that are going to be looking directly in to our backyard, our patio, our pool, our living area, our kitchen, you name it, they're going to look right into it. We have a unique piece of property. We are at the widest part of the canal. We don't even care about the people across from our canal because they can't even tell who we are from over there. You can obviously see that this is a point to it as is important to us. This is our home. None of y'all have ever been to our home, seen our view, or been on our property to understand our concerns. An upper deck is absolutely not reasonable nor required to dock their boat.
We did show a lot of pictures last time about our view. I have a couple in the back. I know the view is not most important, but you buy waterfront property for your view and your home and to sit out back. I don't know if any of you have kids or grandkids, but we have 8 grandchildren. We play in our pool. We are outside in our backyard every day.
This variance allows them to be with their upper deck. This allows them to be as close as 1 foot away and 2 inches off the property line, or 26 feet out into the canal along our property line and looking directly back into our home. The 7.5 setback provides a buffer for privacy. None of you would feel feel comfortable in your own pool or backyard with an audience that is literally, you could literally reach out and touch. I mean, it's nobody would want that.
We literally can sit in our kitchen and probably hand them a soda.
If the variance is granted with an upper deck, you are not only reducing our property value and obstructing our waterfront view, but most importantly, taking away our privacy and ability to enjoy our own backyard, pool, deck, etc., and to be comfortable in our own home.
So that picture you see there was taken from my kitchen door this morning. There's our pool. That red square, we will be looking at that boat on a 26 by 20 dock, and then add people to the top overlooking our pool. And we have grass right here on the other side that we sit at. We have a private home.
Mind if I just interrupt you just for a quick second to get clarification on the upper deck that you're presenting? Mr. Bodie, this variance request is for side setbacks, correct?
Yes, it's for side setback. The neighbors here have pointed out that they're going to put a flat roof up there with a deck on it. And you could condition it to be a pitched roof instead of a flat roof on the deck, instead of a deck, so that they wouldn't be able to have a deck on the flat roof.
It's just very invasive. So we have a consensus to talk to you all about, because that is a 26 by 20 wall that we would be staring at with people up top literally looking straight into our pool. That's part of their package. Go ahead.
So, like I said, we're going to get to the point of it. We're
Here it
trying to.
Go to the next page, babe.
So after reviewing these other options and hearing our concerns, if the board chose to approve this variance, we respectfully ask this board to only approve the following stipulations. This variance is only granted for a single level dock and watercraft. To clarify, if the applicant chooses to include a roof, there shall be no platform roof, upper deck of any kind, or any availability for congregation of people or access to the roof. The roof must be a 512 pitch. The reason I put in that was if they decide to put in a roof, again, we talked about our view. Nobody's been to our house to be able to see this, but if they put in some, real high-pitched 12-foot gable roof or something like that, that's uncalled for as well. We do not feel that this is too much to ask of the board. A roof is above reasonable when a boat cover does the same. An upper deck is beyond reasonable and not required to dock their boat, and absolutely not necessary and extremely intrusive given being 2 inches off the property line. A boat cover or roof does not have eyes, ears, and voices. Doesn't mean if they put a roof up there, if they cover their boat, nobody's going to be looking at us. Nobody's going to be talking to us. Nobody's going to be yelling at us. We have our privacy. I do not want to be a prisoner in my own home, my own backyard. That's just, any of you guys were in the same situation, you would not want it either. That picture she showed right with the, that picture is out our French door right outside our master bedroom. So in the morning, when we walk outside our master bedroom, if those blinds are open, they're out there sipping on their coffee, they're looking right at us. And that's just disrespectful.
We buy waterfront property knowing, most canals are directly across from each other. Our view does look down the canal. One of their pictures actually even showed it, and I'll show you another one. But with them right there, because you're giving them that 7.5 leeway of being right on the property line, I could hand them a cup of coffee sitting in my pool. It's so intrusive.
So,
And that would be a wall, which is hard to see. Right now, there's 2 PVC pipes out there, so it's hard to tell. But I drew that picture because when you see an upper deck with 2 levels and fill that picture in with something that looks like this and add an upper deck with bars 3 inches apart so children's heads don't go through and people up top, and this is our property. They are right there.
So,
But we just don't feel this is too much to ask.
so going back to the fact that, you know, we're not the bad people here. And we are bone owners. We want them to have a dock. So this is kind of a compromise. This is, they get their dock, and we get to maintain our privacy. So I don't think that's too much to ask. It's not like, you know, we're digging in our feet, we're digging in our heels, and we're just totally against and totally in opposition.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. The procedures say that we ask the applicants, I'm assuming this applies also to other presenters, to be concise and to the point. And I think I've heard the third argument, or one argument, the third time now. Could you be concise and get to the, I'm asking you to.
Yeah,
Okay.
good point, good point. I just, I'm giving both sides a little leeway because this is our second meeting on the same controversial topic with opposition, and I just want to be thorough. But if you could
Yep.
be concise and.
Hold on a second. I apologize, and I will cut to the chase, and it's just like I said. If the board is going to grant them the variance that they're looking for, we respectfully ask that it is approved without an upper deck. We have proven that the upper deck is not a necessity.
That's a picture of us, our view down the canal and how they would be right over the top. That's our infinity pool. Thank you so much for your time and taking into consideration. I hope you can put yourself in our shoes, because I think you'd be standing here too.
Thank you. As the District 2 representative, again, your presentation was very thorough. I don't have any questions, but if anyone else on the board has questions.
Mr. Chair, so I have reviewed the ordinance, our local procedures, and I've confirmed with Mr. Bodie, and I've looked in the Roberts Rules. There isn't anything that stops you from choosing to accept the letters in opposition from the individuals that are speaking now.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I do now have some questions because we'll accept the letters. I notice in one of the letters that the person in opposition has the same last name. Is that a relative
Yes,
who has an interest in that property?
yes.
And then is the other person in opposition also a relative?
They are a relative. Our property will go to them, and they actually live in the neighborhood.
Okay. Thank you.
Our neighbor across the canal was going to be here, but they have COVID, so chose not to. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who has, wants to speak on behalf or in opposition to the applicant? We'll start.
But we got to have you one at a time, guys.
So,
Or one group at a time.
They're two different.
so the board members are asking everyone to be concise and to the point.
Yes.
How are you?
Hi, I'm fine.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Kimberly McCormick. My address is 275 Diana Boulevard, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you are about to give to this board is, the Board of Adjustment is the truth?
Yes,
Thank you. Are you speaking in opposition or on behalf?
on behalf.
Okay.
Okay, so I do live directly to the west of Mr. and Mrs. Gannon. I have been to their house. I have seen their view. It's spectacular. I'm not going to disagree with them on that. As for the variance that would cause a hardship for them to have a dock put on the Mr. Munro and Miss Goforth's property, I do not agree with that at all. Their way their property is, it's tucked back in a little cove. They can put that dock in, and if you look down line of sight from the corner of the Gannon's dock to the next dock over, their projected dock is within that. It's not in a navigable waterway. It should not have any kind of impact on them seeing down the canal. As for having a roof on it, if it goes to their visuals, their dock is 7.5 feet off of my property line. They have a big roof. It blocks my view down the canal, but it's what you expect when you live on the canal. You're not going to get clean waterway views no matter what, unless you live on a river or on the ocean, and nobody's going to be around you. So it's just one of those things that you have to accept living in a canal front home. So that's all. I'm in favor of them. They have been keeping their boat at my dock since they moved in to make it easier for them to access. But we do want to get our own boat too, so we want them to be able to have theirs so we can go boating together again. That's it.
Thank you. Anyone on the board have any questions?
Any questions? Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sir? Would you please state your name and address for the record?
Sure. Kevin Mikowski, 425 Artemis Boulevard. So I live on the other side of the canal.
Would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you're about to give to this board is the truth?
I do.
And are you speaking in opposition or in favor?
In favor. I know Larry and Stacy. We've been friends for a while. Like I said, I live in the canal across the street. I'm up and down this waterway literally 3, 4, 5 times a week. And I guess what I wanted to point out was I heard, again, earlier conversation about, it impeding the waterway, impeding water traffic. And as we've pointed out many times, the property's tucked way back. And so when I went on Google Maps to have a look and I printed several of these, and I can show you here, but my point was Google Map right now shows the previous dock that was on the property before it was torn down. They had to replace their seawall, and as a result of tearing down the seawall or replacing the seawall, they had to tear down the old structure. And if you look at the old structure that was there on the property, it was significantly larger in footprint than what they're asking to be put back up right now. So, and that structure, to my understanding, has been there for 25, 30 years. So it's hard for me to comprehend how something that's been there forever, since the folks own the property next door, how all of a sudden now having a structure there could bother them. It doesn't, This is the photo that
I can't unless you have one for everybody.
Oh, I do, actually.
Okay.
You want it?
No, I appreciate the help. I'm an amateur.
Oh, but you're going to get...
So, again, that's all I really had to say, is they're not asking for anything new. Footprint's the same, or actually smaller than what was there previously, so, again, it kind of no-brainer to me, but that's all I wanted to say.
This is the source of this photograph is Google Earth.
Right now, you can go on Google Earth, and that's what comes up, that picture. No, that's what I'm saying. It's a little old, but that's what was on the property previously.
Do any of the board members have a question?
Yes, I do. Great aerial view, whatever.
Thank Google.
You've lived in that neighborhood for?
Yeah, 18 years.
Okay. So you have seen this old structure.
Oh, absolutely.
Could you describe it? Height, type, how it's built?
It was just it was a dock, more of just a rectangle square dock coming off the seawall.
To have a roof?
It did not.
So it was flat to the ground?
Yep, flat to the wall, and any boat that would come out there actually would have to be docked on the outside of that dock, which would push the boat even further out into the canal. But like it's been said, it's pretty secluded back in that corner. So,
based on what you said, with it being docked parallel, again, it probably wouldn't have exceeded the 20% parallel to the property line, or perpendicular. So, okay, no, your personal knowledge is helpful. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks.
Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in favor or in opposition?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Pamela Steele. I live at 203 Sykes Loop Drive on Merritt Island, Florida, 32953. That is a very boat-oriented, canals and everything community as well.
Would you raise your right hand?
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Do you swear and affirm that the evidence you are about to give to the board is the truth?
Yes,
And are you speaking in favor or in opposition?
in favor.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just coming to you as a private citizen who's been a taxpayer on Merritt Island, property taxes for over 35 years. When I first built my first home on Merritt Island, I've grown up here, so I've been here 53 years of my life has been spent on Merritt Island. So I'm very familiar with the area, including where the dispute is located. I'm friends with Kim McCormick, who just spoke to people ago. And for the past at least 4 years since she started having her backyard parties for the Merritt Island Boat Parade, I've gone to each one of them. And I think that day is probably the most busiest day of boat traffic in that particular canal in question. And the boats all come down on the, I guess it would be north side of the canal. The canal is very wide. They go well beyond the McCormick's house to turn around. They go way down to the end. Then they come back and go east on the south side. You can actually high five people. I mean, people are, all over. However, I worked for NASA for 35 years, and that's our core value. Number one is safety, so I'm kind of like a safety freak. And I have never observed anything unsafe about even on that busiest day of the year, because I heard something about the boat traffic and kayaking and all of that. I have observed no safety concerns with all those boats turning around, and some are small, some are really big. They go well beyond the Gannon's property, the Munro's property, the McCormick's property before they turn around, so that gives you a perspective of the width of the canal. And then they come back down. The only people who really ever turn around right in front of the Gannon's house, which is where the big party is every year, are people that are butting in line, so they'll turn around at that wide area, but they're really butting in line. The majority of the people continue down the canal and do it around. So I've observed no safety observations at all during the highest traffic day for boating in that canal. And so this particular last year, just like last month, I went to the party at Kim's, and then afterwards I walked 2 doors down to the Monroe's house because I had not seen their property since they finished all the renovation. And we walked out back, and I was like to Stacy, so when are you getting your pool and your dock in? Because the last time we had talked, they were working on that. She told me about this issue, and I, as a taxpayer and just a common sense, logical person, was like, are you kidding me? What an injustice. Every house on that canal has docks, in that proximity. And when I heard it was like some safety concerns were brought up, I was like, are you kidding me? And then view, I was like, really? Because when I stand on Kim's deck in her backyard and by her pool, and you look down to the east, the Gannon's gigantic structure. You can't see down the canal at all from Kim's house. So obviously the privacy and the view and all that wasn't a problem when they came forward for permitting. So I was like, what an injustice this is, So I'm just here to say, as an unbiased person, I don't live in the neighborhood, but I'm just seeing, I am a rule kind of person, policy, laws, that's kind of my thing with the government. And I'm retired now, though. But basically, it's just an injustice. And I think as our county representatives, you have a responsibility to vote based on laws and code and, logic and things that are in compliance and not on emotions. Everybody knows when you're on a canal, your view is going to be obstructed. I've been on my HOA board. That's always an area of concern. That's why we have an HOA in Sykes Cove, and it's very restricted, and you can't have, things that maybe the county would allow. So that was thought of ahead of time. As when I bought into Sykes Cove, I thought about that. Do I want to live on a canal? Because your privacy is not guaranteed. And in fact, in our neighborhood, every single fence from the back of the house to the canal has to be see-through, and it can only be 4 feet tall, not the higher. And in between, I know McCormick's and the Gannon's is a big plastic fence. I observed an awning on the Gannon's property that practically touches the fence where in between them and the Munros. And so I just think it's like a very self-serving view to deny the Munros from their property rights. It's just a big injustice. And so I ask that you vote based on facts and not emotion as a taxpayer. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to speak?
Oh, me?
We have a question.
Yes.
The property in question is 305. You mentioned this great annual party. What address is that held at?
That's at the Gannon's house. They're
I
like,
don't know-
I think, where the
don't know
judging
names,
happens.
But you can come and take a look and tell me which numbered house it is.
Yeah, it's 285. It's in between, let's see. So it would be this one.
Okay.
That would be the next one.
Okay. And Kim is, which one? Closest to the property?
The Munros are in the circle. The one to the left would be the Gannons, and the one further would be Kim and Jim McCoy.
Where the party is?
In the middle.
In the middle?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where the judging is done and everything, you know. So I honestly, Stacy didn't ask me to come. I was just like,
It's
with your
okay.
hearing, I'm going.
Just answer my questions at
Thank
this
you.
point. No.
Stay right there.
Oh,
Is there any elevated structure that party is on? Or is it always on ground level?
you mean like,
Is it on the ground level next to the seawall?
yeah,
where people gather?
people are all over the docks and the
Okay, but the
land.
dock is at
Yeah,
basically-
all up and down the canal, yeah.
But the dock is at ground level. There is no elevated structure that people are up on partying.
Platform?
Yeah.
Not that I noticed.
Okay, all
Okay.
right. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak in favor or in opposition to this variance? Seeing none, would you please come back to the podium? I'm going to ask you for a response, a rebuttal. However,
You're hungry.
I'm going to condition that. We heard both sides. We don't need to rehear your side.
Right.
The only thing very concerning that was brought up that you hadn't addressed is the issue with the roof or an elevated platform, a rooftop deck, that kind of thing.
Yes. On the rooftop deck, we hadn't designed anything until we got past this spot. That drawing that was in there wasn't that was from a long time ago, so we're not sure how that got in there. That was from probably a year ago, and that's not even accurate for this dock. Like,
To answer the question.
do
Answer the
do
question.
we want?
You do not intend to put up a platform?
We would love to put up a platform because we have no
Well, you
space
said-
at all,
okay.
and we block. So if you look,
So you
this
do,
is.
you would like to put up a platform?
We would love to put up a platform. If it's going to mean that we can't have a dock, then of course we would forego that. We would give up that platform up top.
Okay,
We
just-
never,
Just in
Yeah.
the point of brevity,
Right.
thank you. That
Okay.
really answers it. Thank you.
okay. We, just to make it clear, getting our boat out of the water and having it behind our house is the major thing that we want. We want that. Would we love to be able to put up a small deck on top so that we would have a view? Because it blocks our entire thing, our triangle. We will have no view at all except of our boat. If we had a deck, we would be able to see down the canal. We don't throw parties. We don't have parties. I would be drinking my coffee up on that deck if we had it. If I have to forego a deck, I'll forego a deck. That would be our only way. Rightfully, we could put up pillars in our backyard and put up a deck. We could put a second story on our house with a big porch that did it. This right here shows if we're right here and we put a deck up right on top here, and we put a deck up there, we don't think that that's huge. We don't have parties. Now, at the Christmas party, You see their dock, that huge dock there? That 50 foot with this big, it's hard to see. They have a big platform. All of those people, there were dozens, probably 30, 40, 50 people partying all night, looking right back at our property. We have photos of that. They look in.
That's okay. I think the question was, were you planning on putting on were you considering putting on that
Yes, we had considered
section?
it to have a view.
And that's all the
Yep.
question was?
And that's it.
Okay.
We do want to clear up. We did go over there and talk to them. Please don't think that we didn't go over there. My husband went up there one night and talked to them and said, hey, can we talk to you before the hearing? And they were doing something. Mr. Gannon said, please come back tomorrow morning. I went back the next morning. He said, I have an emergency with my mom. I can't do it. I said, okay, I get off work at 3:30. I went back at 3:30. They said, we have our grandkids. We can't do it. The next day, they said, come back.
It's okay.
That's
Thank
all
you.
right.
Thank
We-
you.
we
So
get the
we
point.
did try.
Right.
We did try.
We appreciate that. This originates, again, from my district, but without the ability to make a motion.
Mr.
was there someone
Chairman,
here?
I'd like to make a motion if I could. You can be seated, guys. I'd like to make a motion to approve both variances as depicted on survey.
Do we have a second?
And then once it's seconded, I'd like to address it.
We have a motion by Mr. Rhodes and a second by Dr. Bass to approve both variance requests as depicted in the survey. And if you don't mind, Mr. Former Chairman, I will, being from District 2, I'd like to speak first. if that's
Please.
okay. Thank you. Thank you to the applicants, to the members of the audience who spoke in favor and in opposition. It did take a long time, but it's a very important subject. I wanted everybody heard. I wanted everyone to say what they needed to say, and I appreciate that. You have a 21-foot boat. That's not too huge of a boat. That's actually on the smaller side. You're trying to get a dock at your canal front house as minimal as you can get to accommodate your boat. And I think you've done your due diligence, and I think you've worked very hard for that. I think what you presented is not ideal for a waterfront house. It's probably not really what you want, but it's what you're willing to settle for, to get a dock to have your boat at your house. I believe, and as a former canal home owner, I believe the primary reason to own a canal home is to have a dock and to have your boat docked at your house. It's a convenience thing. It's to use the waterways. The view is absolutely another reason, but I don't think it's the primary reason. And I believe you when you said that, buying the waterfront house, the primary purpose of that was to have a boat and a dock there docked behind your house to use the waterways. I think you're asking for the minimal amount you could ask for. Again, that looks like clearly the widest point of the canal. I don't see it as a safety or a hazard to navigation in and out of that canal. I think the only issue that we have is the setbacks. And as the neighbors stated, that you're going to need a variance with whatever dock you put in there. And we're talking about a 57% variance is what they suggest to a 97% variance. And, to me, it's not going to make much of a difference. I think you're doing the minimal you can do. I don't like the idea as a boat owner, as a former canal front owner, to use an elevator lift. I don't think you can slide the boat in sideways and come right in and get over that first cradle on an elevator lift. You won't have guides if you do that. I think it's more dangerous, actually. And I think that the way the property is configured with your neighbor's property on an angle to your property, you're not getting the amount of swing you would need to come in and swing to get into a dock that's built right on the seawall, on the four-post dock. I'm in favor of your request, as I was last time, and we'll see what the other board members have.
Mr. Chairman, first of all, I want to address something. We do not have to have all 6 of those items to be a yes in order to give an approval. If one of them is a no, for example, it gives us the right to say no. What happens if all of them are a yes, if they've met all 6 criteria, I cannot say no. I must say yes. However, it does not have to have all 6 of them to be a yes for us to give approval to this. So that's a point of clarification. Second point of clarification is number 5 reads that the variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. This is talking about the structure that they're proposing to build. Therefore, the proposal of the structure that they are wanting to build, this would be the minimum variance required for them to build the specific structure that they are wanting to build, okay? That does not mean that it's the minimum variance to build anything. It's just this specific structure, and that's what it is addressing. So I wanted to clarify that. Now, Ms. Goforth and Mr. Munro, you all looked at me really good when you came up here, and I understand that. I was the one who made the final determination, and my determination was based on, and I'm explaining this. I'm taking time I don't have because I want to explain this. I don't like 100% variances. I don't like 97% variances. I personally don't like anything over 50%. I don't. However, that being said, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying this, so I hope I don't. But I think I did you wrong. I went by my feelings on not liking the 100% variance. Later, I can't talk with anybody about your case prior to the case, but I can talk after. I sat down with Mr. Bodie, went over it, and he looked at me and goes, what else were they to do, pretty much. And he kind of went over things with me and gave me a better understanding. And I will tell you that I told your representative, I said, I wished I could bring them back. I would change my vote, okay? So, that being said, you have my full support on this. I think you have worked your tails off to come up with a solution to be able to do what is the safest and most practicable way to build a boat dock and to put it in there. And I don't care if you have a roof or don't have a roof. That to me doesn't matter. Of course, I don't live next door. But you know, to me it doesn't matter. But without getting in, I know what I want to say, I just don't know if I should say. You know, you're not building a 50-foot dock. You're building a small dock. You know, and I can tell you that I've worked on this board for a while, and I've had people on the beach that's wanted to come and build. And the guy next to him has a 3-story house, and they don't want them to build a 1-story house. Many times we have our cake, but we don't want anybody else to have a pie. And, you know, so I have no problem with what you're wanting to do, but I did want to clarify. I was so glad when I seen this on the agenda, because I can correct what I did wrong. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. I heard a couple of arguments, both sides. One was about view of the canal. And I see boathouses in front of almost every one of these houses that blocks the view. And I understand that the people next door are looking at that keyhole view that frankly goes over the property line and down the canal when their own frontage view is blocked. So the argument about the view doesn't sway me. What does sway me a bit is the idea of the upper deck that looks down upon the other people's property. And yes, you could have a two-story house or something and look out the windows and pretty much do the same. But I noticed in our motion, we did not restrict, we did not put a restriction on for the upper deck. And I think we need to either further discuss that here among ourselves and add it, or not.
I would not be in favor, and I would vote against any amendment of that nature, because I think they have the right to go up if they want to. They have a right to have, I mean, understand, they've got such a small area that it's not like they can build a deck beside the boat. So the only option for them to have any kind of deck to sit on would be to go up. And I personally don't think it'd be right to restrict them and say, you can't have a deck to be able to sit on, drink a cup of coffee and overlook the river because somebody next door don't like it. I've got a two-story house sitting out in my backyard that looks right down into my pool. I'd rather they didn't, but they can. And I think it would be unfair to look at them and say, you can't have some sort of deck. And that's my argument.
I'm not, you cut me off.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
It's all right. No, I don't mean cut me off. Problem is, if they move away, that deck becomes what do they call it, an attractive nuisance for partying. And that would be disruptive to the other homeowners. That was why I was asking quite a bit about the on-the-ground parties in the larger lots that were further away. So I don't know how we proceed here. Do we have
You
a,
can make an amendment.
make a motion to make an amendment?
Or just make an amendment. And then
We have a motion and a second.
And this would be a motion to
And-
amend the motion.
he can make an amendment to the motion at this point, can he?
You can make an motion to amend. It needs a second.
And a vote on
If it,
it.
and
And then it
appropriate
would be voted
voting,
on.
if it doesn't receive a second or it doesn't receive the number of votes to pass, then the amendment fails.
Okay. Then I do want to amend the motion to restrict having that second floor deck as opposed to a slanted roof.
We have a motion to amend the motion to restrict a flat-top roof.
Restricted to a slanted roof.
Restricted to a slanted roof.
I won't designate the slant, but
Right. Do we have a second?
okay, motion dies.
Motion dies.
Okay.
So we're back with the original motion to approve the two variances as depicted in the survey.
Chairman, I move that we vote.
Ms. Mallard, do you have any questions or discussion points?
No, they was both very thorough. My only thing is that I'm one, as a homeowner, I do love the privacy of my backyard, and I don't want to look right outside and have my neighbors looking at me. That's the only thing that I'm very concerned about. Like they were saying, they were right there, right in their backyard.
If I may say, it's a zero setback.
No, it's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Almost.
It's 97%. It's going to be inches off the property line.
Okay.
Okay, with that, let's go to a vote. All in favor for the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Aye. Or
Opposed.
nay.
All right, we have 3 ayes and 2 nays. The variance passes. That will conclude the Board of Adjustment meeting. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public during any such period.